V?
I thought I was doing the show this week.
Wait,
Wait,
are we doing a show together?
It looks like it. I mean,
It's been a while.
It's been a month.
Jeez.
I've been on a show with you since February.
Wow. I'm glad. Let's kick some ass today. Let's go. Hello and welcome to Talk Heathen! Today is March 8th, 2020, Season 4, Episode 10. I'm Eric Murphy.
I'm Bianca.
Holy shit, we're on the same show together.
I remember this happened a few times. It was fun, yeah.
I'm very, very glad that we can do a show again. It's been way too long.
It's been a bit.
So, how have you been? It's been a few weeks.
It has been a few weeks. What have I been doing? I don't know. Watching Star Trek Picard mostly, and all the reviews of Star Trek Picard.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm actually very excited. I have some speeches coming up, and I know you're doing a speech on the 25th.
I am actually out in Houston. The Secular Student Alliance has asked me to go out and give a talk, so I'm going to be going down to Houston midweek and be doing that. And then, let's see, you're going to be on stage at the American Atheist Convention.
I am. Me and Jenna Belk and Jen Aldridge, and then some wonderful new speakers and activists. And we're going to be doing a panel, and the name hopefully gets through all of the bigwigs up there. Is called "Shut Up, Bitch."
Okay.
So we'll see if that gets onto the agenda officially.
Dig it.
But yeah, we're super excited. We're going to be going down there.
Yeah, it is just convention season, isn't it?
Apparently, yeah.
So Faithless Forum was also announced, and we are both on the schedule.
Speeches there.
So super excited about that.
Yeah, and then also Atheist Day, which is in 2 weeks.
It is in 2 weeks. You know what? Actually, one of the things that recently got done is a video of the video promo for it. Let's see if we can. Let's see if we can pop that up. On March 21st, the atheist community of Austin is celebrating International Atheist Day on the steps of the Texas State Capitol. No matter who you are, no matter what you believe, no matter what you call yourself, we want you here too. Because this day, we're standing up for equality, for representation, for the right to be counted, and for each other. Because everyone deserves to think for themselves, to speak freely, and to live their lives unafraid. Not just this day, but every day. And that is something we can all believe in. Oh, yeah.
I was going to say, that voice sounds familiar.
Is it?
I think I heard it on the Discovery Channel at some point.
If you happen to be in the Austin area for International Atheist Day, please come and join us on the steps of the Capitol, because that's going to be fucking awesome.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
So, you know what's funny is we've got all of these events going on. I know that tickets for Faithless Forum are on sale. Mm-hmm. In the meantime, South by Southwest was canceled.
I heard.
Yeah. Coronavirus.
Yeah.
Worried.
Apparently, that's a thing.
Yeah. I'm kind of...
Well, I'm sad for the vendors and very happy for the commuters who live here.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a give and take there.
That's fair. I'm sure we'll have everything handled by the time the events happen. Anyway.
Yes, the atheist community of Austin is going to cure coronavirus. That is how that works.
Clip that, please. So before we dive into things, I did want to say that there's going to be a new episode of Atheist Vanguard on at 3, so make sure that you stay tuned for that after the show.
And a new episode of GB3 on After Atheist Experience.
Ooh, nice. Okay. If you like what we do and you want to support us, there is a link down right underneath us, actually, perfectly timed. You can go to that bit.ly link to buy the merchandise. I have been a bit of a stubborn ass about the rebranding. And so it has been taking longer, which means that there is a little more time to buy the OG merch. If you want to get it, you can pick it up, because once my prima donna butt is happy, we're going to be launching the intro. Also, if you want to support us, you can go to patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. That is where the vast majority of donations and all of that have been coming in from, and we've been putting it to good work by doing things like putting on International Atheist Day and sending people out to do conventions and all of that stuff. Yeah. Supporting new shows like Godless Bitches. And also empowering local and, abroad volunteer work, being able to give grants to organizations like Recovering from Religion. Actually, I was going to say Beyond Belief Network. There we go. Foundation Beyond Belief. Took me a second.
They all have the same 3 letters.
Right. I don't know.
It's a thing.
So if you like what we do, you want to be able to support us, you can go to patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me 2/3 of the way through the episode. I thank the top 5 patrons. And
you remembered.
I did.
That's good.
I did. You know what?
You've grown since I've seen you last.
Well, mostly because you have not stopped reminding me. We do have new top 5 patrons, and I'm really excited about that. So
that's exciting.
Right?
Thank you, new top 5 patrons.
I knew. With that said, I think it's time that we dove into calls. We've been kind of gilding the lily a little bit. Are you ready? Who do you want to talk to first?
I'm ready. And honestly, I kind of want to talk to the Irish shaman.
Oh, okie dokie. Owen in Ireland. You're live with Eric and V. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good.
Doing all right. Waiting for the caffeine to kick in, actually, but so. What's up? What do you want to talk about today?
Well, I've been listening to your show and the Atheist Experience for about a year and a half, tossing around the ideas, trying to come to terms with a lot of the objections and so on. And I've come to a position where I understand shamanism as something different from either a religion or a science. And so I just thought it might be interesting for your listeners if I called in and tried to give you what I flatter myself as a slightly different perspective on these issues.
And so long as it's something that we can have a dialogue about, I'm happy to.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, what do you believe and why?
Well, my primary, I'm what I call a shaman. I've been initiated in the Quechuan tradition of Peru, which is practiced by there's about 20 million Quechuan peoples in Peru. So I've been initiated within their tradition. So technically, I'm what they call a Paco. My understanding of the difference between shamanism and a religion and a science is, if I use the term a theoretical framework for the concepts and so on that form something like, say, evolution or a religious belief, the way I see it is science is a theoretical framework which interacts with an empirical evidence base. So the theory leads to predictable predictions, hypotheses, and then the empirical evidence validates or invalidates the theories. In my view, religion is the theoretical framework without the empirical evidence. So in some cases, it simply doesn't call on it. In other cases, as we see with young Earth creationism, it pretty much ignores the empirical evidence. My understanding of manic practice...
Hold on, question.
Yeah.
Do you find that at all useful?
What, the theoretical framework without the empirical evidence?
Well, any framework of understanding a thing without evidence.
So this is where shamanism, I think, is different. Shamanism is focused on the practice, and the theoretical framework is secondary or irrelevant. So,
okay. Instead of theoretical framework, can we replace that with the word process?
No, I'm trying to use theoretical framework instead of the word theory because it's misleading for a lot of people. They confuse it with, opinion. So for me, a theoretical framework would be a set of beliefs, a set of concepts, ways
So
of
doctrines,
relating them.
dogma, that kind of thing.
Yeah, doctrines, dogma, and, certainly with something like, say, experimental design, there's a theoretical framework for how empirical evidence should be used and so on, if that makes sense.
Okay, so you're talking about how we use thoughts to inform actions. It's a roadmap.
Yeah. So my way of understanding religion is it really hasn't drawn its conclusions from empirical evidence. And as we see with, as I said, young earth creationism, in often cases, it will ignore empirical evidence to the contrary of what the theory is claiming.
And shamanism does not do this, is what you're saying?
No, shamanism doesn't come from an intellectual or a theoretical framework. Shamanism, I believe, has evolved through trial and error. So what I've found is you get the same practices in multiple cultures. They have different theories about what is going on. But the practices are compatible.
We're using the word theory a lot, and it's going to start muddying the waters here. No worries. They have different, maybe superstitions or hypotheses.
Yeah, different explanations, different metaphysics, different mythologies behind them.
Sure.
But what I've found... Sorry, go on.
No, that's okay. So when you're talking about testing by trial and error...
That sounds like a theoretical framework.
That definitely sounds like one that would be... affected by empirical evidence.
Well, yes, that's the whole point. It's empirical evidence without really much concern for the metaphysics, for the explanation of what is going on in the background.
Okay. So you're putting this basically on a spectrum, right? And you're saying religion is the theoretical framework without the evidence, science is theoretical framework with evidence, and shamanism is evidence without theoretical framework?
Yes. So in that sense, I would call it more of a craft than anything. You can do carpentry without understanding anything about the physics.
That's exactly actually what I was thinking of so it would be like an engineer. You're just using things that we know. So why should we care? I mean, engineers aren't calling to tell us about engineering. Why are you calling us to tell us about shamaning if that is just all it is? Like, what makes it special, unique? What's different about it? How do you, plant that in this understanding of shamanism that we have? Otherwise, it just seems like a superfluous word.
I'm sorry, what seems like shamanism seems like a superfluous word?
Well, if you're just framing it as a profession.
Well, I'm framing it as a cultural practice. I mean, in particular, a spiritual practice that occupies the same place in cultures as science does for some and religion does for others.
Well, hold on. So how could you say that when you're comparing apples and oranges? You yourself said that there's a methodology to science, and even you're saying there's a methodology to religion, but there's no methodology to what you're saying. So how is that even, those feel way too disparate to compare.
I just want to know who's using science for spiritual practices. That sounds like fun.
No, I meant it occupied the same place in people's lives and in cultural and in culture as religion does for some. Science is a way of understanding the world, and acting within it occupies a similar role as a body of cultural practices, is what I meant by that. Not that you can put the two together.
I've got a question then. So I'm assuming you think that shamanism is somehow better, or at least as effective. Is that your premise, that maybe the way we understand religion or science is limiting in some way and shamanism is better?
No, number one is science. Any belief system or any practical system must be at least coherent with science. You can't contradict verified objective empirical evidence.
I agree with that.
Just because it suits you. For me, so my understanding, well, my experience of shamanic practices is that they can have, there are practices that I can perform which have predictable, regular results for people. But what I cannot do is distinguish between whether those results are the placebo effect or the results of some form of spiritual metaphysics that people want to come up with. Now, when I say the placebo effect, I don't dismiss the placebo effect as a genuine biological effect that happens
I
within
agree.
people. So what I am offering here is that there is a way of pursuing what people would look on as religious or spiritual practices that have a benefit, but for which we don't have satisfying or metaphysics. Some people might believe in one metaphysics or the other, but I have literally watched indigenous shaman switch their metaphysics when comparing techniques with other people and not regard the change in the explanation for what is going on in the background as particularly important.
Yeah, well, that sounds like science to me. Just the scientific method, at least. Here's something we know happens. Let's figure out why. And I'm willing to adapt that as I get new evidence for things that convince me. I'm thinking about an analogy here, and tell me if I'm off with this. So how about there's a movie, right? And everyone goes to see this movie. It's a real tearjerker. It's going hard for the Oscar, right? And people go and they cry. And that is a psychological and physiological experience that is shared across multiple audiences. It's repeatable. People will cry at this movie. And just because the crying at the movie has any kind of, that doesn't say anything about the way the world works necessarily. It's just something that you do and you know you can do. If you go see this movie, I feel like crying, I'm going to go see this movie and cry. Is that kind of the same concept?
Yeah, I can do a particular ritual or a healing ceremony on a particular person with a particular type of condition, and I'm going to get this effect at the end of it. And I can do that on different people for the same condition in the same way, and I'll get the same results. And I can encounter shaman from different traditions who have a completely different understanding of what that procedure means in a metaphysical sense, but who follow the same procedure in the same circumstances and get the same results.
Okay. My only caveat there would be making sure that the shamanistic approach was not superseding the scientific one in that instance.
In my case, I would never do that. I mean, science.
Well, yeah. See, that's.
May I?
Yeah.
I might have a more basic question for you, and that is, so in listening to what you're saying, let's say you're performing a healing ceremony, right? Mm-hmm. Do you think that healing ceremony is making use of the placebo effect? Let's say it's to heal a headache. Somebody thinks that their headache's going to get better, and hey, it gets better because the placebo effect has shown that that's kind of a thing, or pain management, or sleep better, or one of those things, right?
Yep.
Yep. Are you telling them that, or do they think that there's some kind of magic going on?
I've performed procedures on people, particularly here in Catholic Ireland with older folks who may not take a particularly open view to shamanism. I've performed procedures on people like that without explaining to them what it is I'm doing.
Okay.
It's certainly been because they have a particular thing that they're looking for.
So therein is the rub for me.
Right.
The rub for me is what you're doing is potentially setting up a situation where people are coming to the wrong epistemic conclusions.
Okay.
So if somebody thinks, hey, I went to a shaman and this thing happened, if they aren't under the same supposition as you, or other shamans are acting in a less honest way, then what you're doing is propping up a system that is replacing reality with a viewpoint that is magical. I think that what you're doing is potentially propping up magical thinking. And that
Okay.
could definitely have very negative repercussions in the lives of those people later on as they apply that kind of thinking to the rest of their life.
Yes, if I was given them an explanatory thing about what I'm doing. I'm not saying this caused that. In my own mind, I do not know whether it is just the placebo effect or whether something of a spiritual, metaphysical nature is occurring. I literally don't know which of those is true. What I do know is whether I believe one or the other doesn't make any difference to the effectiveness of the practice in helping people. This is where I see the difference between shamanism and religion or a science. The understanding, the intellectual understanding of it really isn't very important. It's not an intellectually led system. It comes primarily from cultures that don't approach things that way.
I mean, but here's the thing, man. I've seen it elsewhere. You know, I've seen other shamanistic type groups. I've seen, you know, brujeria, you know, in culture. I've seen voodoo, you know, and things that kind of borrow from that. And in each of those cases, you have this fertile ground for magical thinking. And if you're saying, I don't know the difference, well, you know, if you're saying, I don't know whether or not it's just the placebo effect, I'm asking, do you see the danger that you're potentially propping up here? Because I don't think that it's necessarily immoral. I think it's right along the lines of somebody paying tithe, to a church. But at the same time, it's still propping up a system, and that system...
Right, there's a reason that the placebo effect works for a lot of people, and it's because they believe that something metaphysical is happening to them.
Exactly, but if you're ascribing that to something that you can't show or verify, then it's dangerous, dude. It's dangerous to prop up this idea because people are going to take that and apply it elsewhere. I would say I disagree with what you're doing, and I disagree with it simply because it's not teaching people. You know, it feels short-sighted because that short-sighted gain of a placebo effect could potentially inform somebody. You know, I don't know if you've so I was on Reddit actually, and what's his name? Jim Bakker?
Yeah, Jim Bakker.
He's been ordered by a court to stop selling colloidal silver as the cure to the coronavirus. Yep. Because he was selling colloidal silver and saying that it cures the coronavirus. That viewpoint, you know, that ascribing to something and well, it's not science, you know, and no, it's not verified, but it could work. You know, where you're seeing benefit in it. And I could honestly be absolutely charitable and be like, you know, you are the guy who is going to be absolutely charitable, you know, or not absolutely charitable, absolutely honest and ethical in your dealings. You're opening the door for the Jim Bakkers or Bakers.
Okay, it is shoddy magical thinking is the one thing about the areas I work in that causes me the most concern. And
I'm glad.
I do teach this stuff. The one thing I try to emphasize more than anything else is we don't know and we don't understand, and don't be claiming certainty. But I will be honest, I hadn't thought about what I'm doing in terms of enabling those who work in the same areas as me about whom I despair because of the superstition and the garbage and faulty thinking that I do see all around me. Yeah. So my work in that area has always been to try and combat that. And as I say, one of the central things I try to teach is don't be so quick to claim knowledge and certainty. I personally work from the basis that we probably don't have the ability to fully understand the universe. It's probably too complex for creatures at such an early stage of evolution as us. But I've got to be honest, I'll take on board what you said, because it's not an aspect of what I do that I've thought about.
Well, and I highly suggest that, it sounds like you are in a position where you could be empowered to do some really positive work. Reach out to the Center for Inquiry.
Okay.
They have a long and storied tradition. They've partnered with James Randi, and that whole debunking magical thinking and mysticism, right? The $1 Million Challenge, to see if you could prove, with testable certainty, different claims of spirituality, psychics, those kinds of things. And what they've done is they've really, really helped educate. And I think that giving them a call, you could take what you know and help to take dishonest actors out of the pool. I think overall, I still disagree, but I already made that clear. But I think that there's serious potential to you doing some serious good there.
And let's also remember, like, there are ways to do this that don't rely on magical thinking as well. And at the risk of incurring the wrath of the comment section, I'm going to tell you something about myself. I read tarot, and I read it for other people sometimes. And what I do is I explain there is no predictive power in these things. There is nothing supernatural that's happening here. But what it's doing is it's giving you another way of looking at a situation, right? If you get stuck in your head, you're going to be thinking about things in one way over and over and over again, and it's hard to get out of that cycle sometimes. So when you have these different pictures and you're being asked, how does this relate to what you're going through right now? What does this card mean to you? That's not saying that the card has any inherent properties, but that's saying that that's inviting you to look at things from a different perspective and maybe walk away feeling like you have a new angle to approach a situation from. And that doesn't take away anything from the experience. People still leave feeling like, oh, that was a good talk. I feel like I went to therapy, or like had a good conversation with a friend, because it was prompts to get people to think. The tools we use don't have any inherent value, and they are not moral or amoral. It's how we use them. And we're not saying that if you're part of a culture that uses tools, that's bad. We're not saying that the tools themselves have any inherent power for good or evil. It's just making sure that when you are using them, you're using them responsibly, and you're making room for play, and you're making room for fun, and you're making room for fantasy, if that's what you like. But you're also educating people and dispelling potential magical thinking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I've just finished teaching a weekend course on the tarot, so that's quite opposite.
Well, rock on, man. This has been a really good call. I'm glad that we talked to you. I think.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for the new perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah, call back if you have any more updates.
Definitely. Take care, brother.
Thank you. Take care.
So for those of you watching, V actually did a tarot card reading on me.
Yep.
And it was really, really funny, because some of them made absolutely no sense. We were laughing at it going, that is nothing. That is nothing. But, just by kind of playing along in there, I walked away realizing that I've been, perseverating over some interpersonal relationships that I really need to work on. And I went out and did that, and I felt better for it. And it just, I kind of helped categorize those things that I was thinking about, and it was nice.
Yeah, and there was no magic. There was no woo. It was just people having a conversation using prompts that we rely on, like stories, like movies.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk to Jeffrey in Philadelphia. Jeffrey, you're live with Eric and V.
Hey, Eric. How you doing, V?
I'm doing good. How are you?
We're doing well. What's up, man? What would you like to talk about?
Hopping on some pretzels here. Sorry, I need a drink of water.
No worries. That's
pretzels
okay.
are good. They're good, man. Anyway, I come to you guys in peace. I come to you in the name of the Most High God. when I began to interact with people in the Atheist Experience show, I went into prayer for various individuals, even calling their names out unto God and in prayer. And one of the things that the first things that the Lord gave me was, and you guys being former Christians will remember this, what Jesus taught when he said, blessed are the pure in heart. You remember the rest of that, what it says?
Yeah, the Beatitudes.
Do you remember the rest of that particular verse, that phrase? The blessed are the pure in heart for what? What did he say after that?
Isn't it for surely they'll they'll inherit the kingdom of heaven, something like that?
No. It says, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God.
Ah, there we go. Okay, so question here, man. Just so that we're on the same page. Are you here to have a conversation with us, or are you here to preach at us?
Both.
Okay, well, we'll take the former and leave the latter. But if we feel like we're picking up more of the latter than the former, we're going to drop the call. Sound good? I want to be straightforward here. This isn't an altar call, and it's not your pulpit.
You guys are always you're always honest with me. We always have usually, well, for the most part, we have good exchange.
Definitely. I just want to make sure that you know. That this is not your pulpit.
Because
this is not your soapbox. We want to talk about.
We're having exactly.
Okay, so why open the Bible in the first place? You're asking us about something that we know, but I'm questioning its relevance. You know, because you're bringing this up. Jeffrey, I can actually give you an example here. I remember I was having a conversation with a friend who's a devout Christian. I was on my way out, and he started quoting Bible verses at me. And I brought him, some things that didn't make sense to me. And he said, well, that's just for God to know, and you'll find out after you die. And he said, but what you have to remember is that it's divinely inspired. And I looked at him and I said, well, but that's what we're arguing about. I don't think it's divinely inspired. And so if I don't think it's divinely inspired, then it doesn't really have the effect that I think you're thinking it has, because we don't hold it in that regard. And if we're not holding it in that regard, then you're casting your pearls before swine. So the question is, why should we hold it in that regard?
Because it's true. You're interested in truth, right?
Yes. How do we know that it is true?
First, you're going to have to read it. You're going to have to pay attention to it. If that's the first thing. And if you out of hand say, look, I'm not even going to read this because what I've read so far, I don't understand it. And guess what? It don't make any sense to me. So guess what? I'm throwing it behind me, and that's it.
Are you assuming that's what we did?
No, I'm not assuming anything. I'm just saying if that is the case.
Okay.
Right, there's no way that you can.
Well, that's not
the first step.
I can tell you that's not the case for me. I read it.
Right.
I tried to read it with an open heart. I read it as a Christian, and I read it as an atheist. So let's toss that out, because we don't want to write the other person off for assumptions, right? Like, you wouldn't want to assume, you all just hate God, so otherwise that's just ending the conversation.
I'm going to ask the question directly as it stands right now for V and for Eric as well. With regard to the Bible, you pretty much have tossed it behind you. Is that an incorrect assumption on my part?
Yes, actually, I was at a bookstore yesterday looking for a copy to buy.
I got my Bible right here.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Cool.
Now the question is, why do we have it?
Right.
What is the use that we get from it?
Well, you would have to answer that question.
Absolutely.
What use do you get from it?
I didn't know if you had a presupposition. I wanted to give you an opportunity, because maybe that could be something we could dispel here. I'm sorry, go ahead. No, there might be a bit of a delay. That's all right, man. Well, I'll tell you. I have this Bible here not because I think it's true, in a divinely inspired sense. I have it here because I want to meet people where they're at. And sometimes that conversation goes into talking about the Bible, and it helps to have it on hand as a reference.
Absolutely.
Definitely. And I also want to really have a good handle on, the core subject of what I'm talking to people about. And so if
Right.
they're talking about, who was it? The dude that said that Lot's wife turned into salt because
Oh no, the story was true because when you taste your own sweat, you
it tastes like salt,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I it's silly, and I can we can look in the Bible and look at that story and see how much that story props up his, and go from there. But we're not taking it as a truth. We're not taking it as a reference for absolute truth. So
Now I'm gonna test you right now.
hold on. The reason that the reason I'm bringing this up.
Oh, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I just want to finish
Go
this.
ahead.
The reason I'm bringing this up is because you brought forward this verse, and we don't hold it in reverence. And because we don't hold it in reverence, any of the verses, until you can show us why we need to hold those in reverence, then they're not going to have any.
Blessed
Jeffrey.
are the pure in heart, for they shall see God.
Thank you, V. You remember it also, Eric, right?
Yeah, the reason why I'm saying this is because you need to show us why it's important. Why, Jeffrey? Why should we care?
Why is the word important?
Why is the Bible important? You and I have words. We're talking. We're using words.
Yeah,
Let's not mince things.
Because we're in search of truth, right?
Right. How do you know?
The reality.
Agreed. How do you know that what's in the Bible is true?
I know it because I obeyed it and I experience it every day.
Is that how anything else works?
I think that's how everything works.
So I went out and I got the lunch that I wanted to have, and I went out with some friends and I got the drinks that I wanted to have. And whether I had $100 or $1 million in my bank account, I could have made both of those things happen. So I'm just going to choose to believe I have $1 million in my bank account. Does that mean that's true?
Okay.
No. I would be fooling myself. Right? There are people who say that exact same thing about other religions, right? I live this way. And because that, it seems like you're saying that this is a personal truth, but we live in a universe that we share. And that universe has things that are true because they are, not because you want it to be. So why should we care? How do you know that it's true? And
you keep asking me why you should care. I keep telling you because it's true.
Right. How do you know that it's true?
It is the truth. And I know by obedience, first of all.
Obedience.
And my experience, obedience to the word, the commandments, right? And also my experience in the world corresponding to that truth that I have read and understood.
So if I brought up things in the Bible that don't correspond to this universe that we're in, would that make you not a believer anymore?
Well, I would investigate it. I mean, you'd have to bring it. We'd have to have that discussion, I guess.
Okay. Talking donkeys.
Uh-huh.
Does it happen?
I believe that animals communicate all the time.
No, it spoke in human language. It spoke to a person. Balaam, right?
So I believe that God is able to make, first of all, I said the first thing because animals do communicate with one another in languages that we don't understand. But I believe God can also translate that same language that they use to communicate to each other to humans. He's able to do that because he stopped us from being able to communicate at one point because of our pride. I mean, humankind.
Yeah, which in itself is... go ahead.
I'm just curious. Do you think that donkeys talk to each other using a translatable language to English?
Absolutely.
Or whatever language?
I think ants communicate with chemicals. They use chemicals as a way to communicate with one another. That's why they're able to do the things that they're able to do collectively.
Right. So you're saying... I'm just curious because what you're doing right now is you're using some claims in the Bible to prop up other claims in the Bible. And we're saying that we don't trust the Bible implicitly as a source. So
you shouldn't trust the Bible. You should trust the God of the Bible.
Where do we find out about that God? Where do we learn about that God?
in that Bible.
Right. So we're trusting the Bible about the God of the Bible. You start with the Bible. You never start with the God.
Well, the God has reached out to you.
That's a claim that you're going to have to back up. No, that's a claim that you're going to have to back up. I can say, and I hope you understand how incredibly presumptuous that is. Jeffrey, how would you feel if because it comes off as condescending, and I don't think you understand why it comes off as condescending. It comes off as condescending because it's, no, I'm right, and this already happened to you. You don't know us. Not only that, but you're presuming in a way that is automatically assuming that you're right. I can do that for any other religion, and you'd probably balk at it. But why is it okay for you to do that to us? And you're also conflating, right? I don't need a response to that because I think that stands on its own. You're conflating. I've got it right here. The donkey says, "What have I done to you to make you beat me these 3 times?" How is that in any way relatable to sounds of pain or sounds of, I mean, when you're talking about, proto-language, when you're talking about, chemical communication, you're not talking about complex sentences. You're not talking about questioning each other and talking in a complex way. No, in the Bible, it says that this donkey opened its mouth and spoke in the language of that person. Right? And so if the answer is, well, God just magicked it, then it sounds like there's no way that you could ever be wrong. Well, if I don't know, God just magicked it. But you said, no, my experience, right? You're saying your experience in the world correlates to what's in the Bible. You can see that the world is definitely the one that's described in the Bible because there's a one-to-one, But when I point it up, but when I point out a problem, that problem is just hand waved away with magic.
No, I'm saying it's absolutely possible. And my little bit of logic that I'm using is the fact that communication does happen with animals, right?
No, not in this way. Try again. Bring me a talking donkey and then we'll talk. Until then, your Bible does not correlate to this universe. It doesn't.
Well, I just believe in a God who's able to do things that man is incapable of doing. Like it's beyond he can do. In fact, Jesus said all things are possible with God. All things.
Okay, so
all things.
That's very poetic, and I understand that can be inspiring because that was inspiring to me at one time. Mm-hmm. But the question is can something be so inspiring that you think it's true just because it's inspiring? Well, no, because that's how we get dictators. That's how we get, horrible people in power who use inspiring speech to manipulate masses. We need to have better reasons. You need to have better reasons.
Jesus, the one that I'm following, he inspires me to reach out to both you guys in love.
I don't think so, Jeffrey. I think that you want to reach out because you found something that makes you feel wonderful and you honestly, truly believe it. And there is a call to action in the Bible. It is.
It ain't me. It ain't me. Eric,
it isn't you.
Not me. No.
Well, if that's not you, then unfortunately, Jeff.
The love.
No, Jeff. See, here's the problem, man. Is I don't like talking to third parties here. If your Jesus wants to talk to me, he can call. But if you're going to talk to me, I want to talk to you.
Oh, yeah. Ambassador. We were sent forth as ambassadors of heaven to make reconciliation. You guys are estranged from God because of sin.
What a horrible presumption. How and why? Do you not understand what a just condescending presumption that is? You have no idea who I am. You have no idea why I do things. And yet you're holding to a doctrine that tells you that you can make that condescending statement.
And call it love, no less.
Let me tell you, man, we can love each other in ways that don't involve that. Because I've seen people send their children to go be tormented and hurt in these these education centers because they were gay, right? Out of love.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen people cast others out of their homes out of love.
So-called love.
Yeah.
So-called love.
Yeah, I've seen parents beat their children out of love.
So-called love.
No, they say it's love. Why don't you listen to them?
It's not real love, though. We know
Bullshit. No, that is bullshit. Their version, what they think. I think that they honestly think it. I'm actually going to believe them and meet them where they're at. I just think that love is fucked. And I think that we should demand better.
Yes, because it's not love.
It's not the love that you define as love. Right?
We know it's not. We both know it's not love, Eric.
I agree. Do you think that somebody, just because their child made a mistake, should lock them in the basement and burn the house down?
Hell no.
Then your God is not a loving God.
That's not my God.
It is.
You don't know him.
Do you believe in hell?
Yes.
Then it is. Anyway.
Well, that's a huge. I'm saying yes.
Anyway.
But it's a huge. That's a huge discussion.
It's a discussion that I think that you are on the right side of. Because I think that you showed that you have a better morality than your God, and I applaud you for it. Anyway.
I think the God that you're referring to is a caricature. It's a slander against the true God.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
It is.
Hold on a second.
That's out.
You agreed that hell is a thing, right? You said I said if your child did something wrong, would you lock them in the basement and burn the house down? I think that's actually much more ethical than burning them forever and not allowing them to ever perish, right? I honestly think that it's a sick.
Check this out, Eric. Hell is our heaven and hell is our affections. What do you?
No, then you're not listening.
Affection?
Yeah, then you're not. You're not.
No.
Sorry, dude.
Where is that in the Bible?
So
we've got the Bible right here. We can check. Right. That's the reference.
Like what? About hell?
Yeah, about. I mean, dude, I've been there. I was right there where I was like, you know what? My version of God does not gel with this thing that I read about in the Bible that the majority of Christians believe. So I'm going to do fucking somersaults, bend over backwards, trying to justify hell and that concept in my head because I was the moral person reading a book that was behind the times, and I was trying to make it fit into my worldview. And that's what you're doing right now. You are trying to make the Bible fit your worldview.
And the awesome thing is, Jeffrey,
I'm trying to make the Bible fit my worldview.
Yeah, you have your own worldview. You're trying to pull the Bible along with you, but you're already beyond it.
My worldview is informed by the Most High God, the creator of all things.
If that was true, I think you would have answered me differently earlier. But let's take some time and think about it and give a call back, because I think that we covered a lot.
Oh,
we did.
I love you guys still.
Yeah.
And guess what?
I think you do because you're a decent person and you honestly believe what you're saying. That's okay. Take care, brother. Yeah.
Yes.
I liked that. That was good.
I could tell you were enjoying yourself there.
Right? Let's go ahead and talk to Raquel in Florida. Raquel, you're live with Eric and V. How are you doing?
Hi, how are you guys?
Doing well.
Doing good.
Doing well. What would you like to talk
I'm
about?
super nervous. I've been watching the show for a very long time, but my first time calling in.
Aw, no, we're big teddy bears. We're good.
Okay, so I've been questioning my beliefs for a very long time. I was raised Christian, all that. I still go to church. Mm-hmm. But there's, of course, a lot of the things in the Bible that I don't agree with. There's just things that I just cannot believe, like a hell, and I don't think that stuff is anywhere moral or justified or any of that stuff. My only hesitation with completely giving up Christianity, I guess, is there are some principles that are inherently Christian that I still strongly believe in. And I almost feel like walking away from that, I'm not even being true to what I do believe. If that makes any sort of sense.
Can I ask what you consider to be some of these principles that are inherently Christian?
Okay, yeah. So one of the biggest ones is like sex before marriage. No sex before marriage. I do think that leads to a healthier home and a healthier marriage. I don't know if that's just because of years of indoctrination, but even if I stepped away from Christianity, I feel like that's still something that I really believe in. Just because I think sex is a very intimate thing and it should be shared with somebody that. I'm sorry?
Oh, no, I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying sure. I think it is very intimate. Would you agree with me that there's good sex and there's bad sex?
Yeah, but probably not in the way that you're describing it. I think there's good sexual experiences and bad sexual experiences, if that's what you mean.
I think that's a great way of saying it.
Yeah.
I think that people can be sexually incompatible. And
right.
I definitely think that I would want to know that before getting married to them.
See, but I don't have that belief. I don't think that. I think that, when you love somebody enough to marry them, then the sex is something that is almost like a smaller issue compared to everything else that matters. And that's just, go ahead.
No worries. I keep wanting to jump in, but one of the hosts of Secular Sexuality is sitting right next to me. I'm sure has plenty to say.
Well, I'm actually fascinated by this topic. First, I want to get out of the way a couple things. First, you can leave Christianity and still not want to have sex before you get married. That is not something that should be keeping you to a faith. That could easily be a personal preference, and if that's what you want to do, then that is your choice. It's your body. You get to do that, and nobody gets to make you feel bad for that. There are also people who put more or less emphasis on sex in their lives. There are people who are extremely sexually just driven and enjoy sex a lot and consider it to be a very big part of their lives. And there are other people for whom it's not as big a deal, and they'll do it because they love their partner, but it's not something they do necessarily to get personal fulfillment from. And again, both of those options are valid. The only problem that I would have is if one person A, who maybe doesn't feel the need to have sex all the time, considers that to be a inherently more moral decision and attempts to put that onto somebody else who maybe doesn't experience sex in the same way. So as long as you are saying, hey, this is what I want to do with my body and this is a standard that I'm going to keep for my partners, or partner in your case, then that is 100% valid, and I say you should go for it, and it shouldn't be something that keeps you tied to Christianity. That could just be something you've learned that you enjoy, that you appreciate, and you can take it.
Right.
That said, the one thing I do have a kind of a little red flag going up is when you're defending this viewpoint to us, as you're talking about sex before marriage, you're using the term I think, right? I think that it increases marital happiness. I think that it is inherently a better option. And I'm curious where you're getting this information from. Is this something that you've just observed in your life? Is this something you've done research on?
So no, I haven't done research on, which I probably should. It's just what I've observed from my own personal experiences and the experiences of people who I've been around who are also Christian. And that could also definitely just be a bias, which I'm willing to acknowledge as well. And so just a couple of things. One thing that you said before, that if it's something that I want to do, then it's not something that I should necessarily put on to everyone else. Like, it's okay for me to live that life if I want to. So my only issue with that is I do believe that it's something better for everyone to do. And it's not only just sex, it's other principles in the Bible that I think are inherently Christian that I do believe in. And I just feel like a lot of the atheists that at least I've met and I'm around don't share those same views. So I'm kind of like, okay,
Well,
I guess I have to keep sticking around the Christians, even though I don't really believe in their God. I think my values are the same or along the same line.
well, I mean, you can be chaste and not be Christian. There are plenty of religions that have chastity. So, like V said, that doesn't necessarily apply. I understand. I absolutely agree that the way you choose to do those things for you are the way you want to do them. And I hope that, a partner that you find has those same values and it's good. In my experience, I've had long-term relationships for, my longest was 9.5 years. And in those long-term relationships, 2 years down the line, inevitably there's a conversation. Hey, well, I actually kind of would be really interested in doing this in the bedroom, whatever it is. And then that's the kind of compatibility that I'm talking about. Some people like to be spanked, other people don't. And if you're not interested in being the spankee or the spanker, that might be a problem. And I want you to live the most fulfilling and have the most fulfilling sex life as possible. Do you think that masturbation is okay?
Do I think it's okay? No. But again, I think the issue...
Oh, Raquel, orgasms are wonderful. They are the most amazing thing. I highly suggest it. Please.
But see, that's the thing, and this is going to sound so hypocritical, but I do masturbate. But I do.
Good. I'm so glad. You should. That's the tagline of secular sexual. Go give yourself an orgasm, or better yet, give someone else one. I don't think there's a problem with giving each other orgasms. I don't think that there's anything lost, and I think that there's a piece that you did not say, but I think is important to say because we're bringing up this topic, and the topic is, what is the value of a woman? Because in what I was taught was that sex and sexual contact devalued the woman involved. Right? And specifically the woman. When we're talking about gender, it's the woman who is lesser because of the sexual contact. And my worry is I would hate for you to have that viewpoint moving forward because it is a very toxic view to hold.
Oh, no, I do. I'm honest. I'm just being honest. I do. I do think that which I have, that if I have sex before marriage in a relationship, I'm devaluing myself. So you know what? Okay, so, we've been talking about sex a lot, but sex is just one point of many values that I hold that, I don't know if, so I don't really know if you guys if you guys were Christians before or not.
Yeah, we were.
Okay, so did you guys have to go through this period of letting go of things that you... Okay, so one thing that I've heard Matt say on, I think it's the Atheist Experience, he talked about how you don't really choose your beliefs, you become convinced of something. And, for me, I just feel like a lot of those values that I hold, it's almost like I can't even choose not to believe them. I see it, I believe it, it's a strong value that I have for my life. Would it just take me sitting down and going through each thing and trying to figure out what makes sense, what doesn't?
Well, may I still am dealing with the repercussions of indoctrination. They still pop up in my life. I'm an atheist, and the impact of the way that my Christian upbringing shaped my worldviews didn't go away when I left Christianity, because there's a whole package there. And so please don't think that you have to, throw away everything just because it's in the Bible, right? Killing is still bad, whether it's in the book or not. You can point at killing being bad in the Bible and, hey, you know what? I can agree with that, right? You can take things that work for you, absolutely. I would love to move into other topics, but unfortunately, with the style of this show, with the nature of the show, we've got to try and keep it down to one thing-ish at a time, maybe two. That way we can, have a conversation and move on to the next caller. The sex topic was really fun. Just, Raquel, if no one has told you this today, your value is not changing, and it's not changing today, and it's not changing tomorrow. You have value, and there's nothing someone can do to you to take that away from you. And that is so important. You are a valuable person.
That.
Nothing, especially someone touching your naughty bits, is going to make that or make you somehow lesser. In fact, my personal suggestion is go and explore and learn, because when you do get married, you'd be that much more experienced as a sexual partner for that person that you marry. You'd have that much more to draw from and that much more to offer. It's pretty nice. We live in a world where you can choose, where you don't have to get pregnant because you had sex. That we have options now. We should avail ourselves of those. Now, I'm not saying that is necessarily going to be your choice. It's just a suggestion. But I hope you think about it.
I will. Thank you guys so much. You were really nice. Nicer than I expected.
Well, hey, Raquel, I also want to let you know that we have a whole show about sex and all of these kinds of questions that we do on Thursday nights at 7 Central. That would be 8 p.m. for you if you're in Florida. So if you want to call in, I'm on that show with my co-host, Christy, who is a sex therapist. And we'd be happy to continue talking about this with you.
All right. That sounds good. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Really, if you call, I will be waiting for Secular Sexuality so that I can listen to that call.
This is a good conversation.
Definitely.
I agree. All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Right.
Take care.
Plugging things.
Hey, well,
Speaking
you know
of
what?
sex.
It feels good. Yeah. Anyway.
You just got it. You just got it.
No, we're good. We're good.
I did also just want to point one more thing out, and this is something that is maybe a little bit more on the dry end and less, touchy-feely. But the concept of something being inherently Christian to me just blows my mind. The idea of abstinence, the idea that sex is wrong, the idea that you should be ashamed of your body and masturbation and orgasms are bad, is not inherently Christian. It's inherently Stoic. It comes from Stoics in ancient Greece. And in order to better market Christianity, they incorporated a lot of Stoic beliefs because that was the popular belief system and philosophy of the time. St. Augustine used to be a Stoic, and then he converted to Christianity and brought a lot of those beliefs with him, and that is where we as Christians or former Christians get those concepts of these things being inherently bad. So it's not actually inherently Christian to believe that at all. It's just you need to go down the line far enough and see how the religion has evolved and aberrated over time.
Yeah. That was a very good lesson. Absolutely. I love that tie-in. Cool. All righty. Do you have anybody in particular?
I like Evan. Let's go with Evan.
All right. Evan in New York. You're live with Eric and V. How are you doing?
Hello. I'm sorry. I don't know if you're saying Evan or Kevin. It's Kevin.
Oh, we have it as
go.
Evan. We're going to change that.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Hey. But, hey, I talked to you guys before. This is my third time calling back. It's good to talk to you guys again.
Yeah, thanks for calling back.
Yeah, what did we talk about last time?
It's hard to tell because I was jumping around last time. I really didn't get to my point.
Okay, well, that's all right. Maybe we can get to it today. What specifically did you want to talk about?
Well, I wanted to talk about, how I actually do believe in God.
Okay.
Yes, I am a theist. I believe everything that the Bible says, and I'm going to try to talk about why that is.
Sounds good.
Well,
Definitely
all,
why is a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. Well, the reason why I study it so much and believe it is because, well, a lot of our understanding of the Bible ends with it ends with the Western understanding of Christianity, the language barrier we have between translations of the Bible. And so I don't really represent or stand with any denominations of Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of problems with the church myself, but I still believe it.
So just to be clear, are you saying that exegesis and hermeneutics kind of hand wave away the problems that you see in Christianity due to translation errors?
Yeah, there's a lot of translation errors, and
well, I would like to address that if that's your point, but I don't want to take you off point again if that's not your point. So just to be clear, is that what you wanted to talk about, how translation errors have caused problems with the way Christians or self-identified Christians practice their religion? Or
well, yeah, it does have a lot to do with the denominations, how they live their life, how they understand it. Well, the thing is that because throughout the passages of history, because we've had struggles of power amongst people, there have been a lot of, I'm going to take this and that out of the Bible to fit my narrative. And that's why we have all these denominations. But to get to my point, yes, there is a God, and through study of these other texts that have been taken out of the Bible, we can come to that understanding too.
Okay, so to be clear, do you think that some texts in the Bible are not true?
No, I don't think so.
So hold on. No, you think that some are not true, or no, you think that some, or they all are divinely inspired?
I think that they're the New Testament is all divinely inspired, but the Old Testament was record of the past.
Can I get an audience volunteer here? The very bottom left corner of that shelf in the room has some Bibles. Can somebody grab me a Bible? Okay, so you're saying the Old Testament entirely. The one behind you, sir.
The Old.
Go ahead.
The Old Testament is just record of the past.
Okay.
And the New Testament is divinely inspired.
Okay, so you think can we throw out the Old Testament?
No, not at all.
What use is it?
Well, the Old Testament is taken by itself. It's a perfect example of how there's a lot of questions still to be answered, and that there were a lot of things left out that Christians still can't account or answer for.
Sure.
Because
I'm specifically I'm really interested in the inspired part of it.
I'm just curious how we differentiate.
Yeah, it sounds like you're throwing some stuff out, and I want to follow along. I'm meeting you where you're at. What can we throw out?
There's nothing that we can throw out. Instead, there's things that should have been added to it. But
I agree.
Oh, okay. So it's interesting. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that before. The Bible's divinely inspired, but it's missing parts.
I mean, if your God wanted those things to be in there, why wouldn't your God have put them in there?
It was just because, that goes into why I believe in God. That was literally on purpose. It was by design of the Holy Spirit, which is a part of God. And in the sense that,
so there's like a director's cut somewhere.
Yeah. Did the Holy Spirit, get in touch with the publisher and find out that there's a page limit I mean, what about the Bible Part 2? You know, the Mormons got that. You know, like, why that distinction? It feels kind of like it doesn't have a reason.
Well, I think before we go into the why, we need to go into how. How do you know that the Holy Spirit influenced the Bible so that parts were left out intentionally? Because honestly, that's a new claim for me, which is exciting because we don't get too many of those. But so I'm actually very curious to know how you know that.
Well, it's because like I said earlier, we, you know, with my belief that Jesus existed and stuff like that, about Jesus' life, you know, he was constantly rejected because he didn't go along with tradition.
That is the story.
Like for example, that he was even one of the things that they deemed important for sentencing him to death was that he performed miracles on the Sabbath day.
Yeah, I mean, I get that's in the story, but I can point out some I can point out some fictional heroes that are way cooler.
Yeah.
Why does it matter?
Just that,
how does this tie into the claim about the Bible?
Well, it ties in because it specifically says that if someone were to take the Bible in the spiritual sense instead of carnal reasoning, that it would be revealed to someone who is humble of heart and is researching this without bias.
There's research in this claim without bias?
Well, yeah, because you first have to realize that the Bible that everybody is reading, especially here in Western countries, is incomplete. And through the passage of history, because there was such struggles of power, such as within the Roman Catholic Church, there was information that was excluded.
Okay, that sounds like bias. Where is this unbiased research coming in?
Well, the unbiased is stepping outside of the denominations and taking a look at these other texts and tying it in with the Bible.
Okay. Well, I mean, you're outside of one bias, which are the different denominations' biases, but not having one bias doesn't mean you aren't biased. Everybody's biased to a certain degree. And if you're looking for proof in one way or another of the Bible's veracity, that means you have some level of expectation that it's going to be true or that you want it to be true, and that's kind of the definition of bias, isn't it?
Yeah, you can say that.
Just wanted to clarify.
You can say that, but the thing that surprises me about the Bible is that it has information about the past, present, and things that we can use in preparation for the future.
Well, just because something has information about the past doesn't mean that all of the claims of it are true. Right. I'm sure you've heard that whole Spider-Man analogy.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a book out there. What was it? Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer. Right? Just because Abraham Lincoln exists doesn't mean that they were a badass vampire slayer, which would be awesome. But I mean,
yeah, right.
Yeah, just because we're pointing at historicity of some things that we can verify doesn't mean that all of the claims are true. And really, if you want to point out that there are some things that we can historically verify, kudos. That's great. It's the magic part that we're concerned about. But I feel like we're starting to meander a little bit.
So your thesis for this call is, if I'm understanding correctly, denominations don't have it right, and the results is that fewer people are true Christians, but you are one. Is that correct?
I don't know if I can really say that, but I'm sorry, to get into what Eric said, the whole magic of it all, like, where the misunderstandings come in is that, like from the very beginning, how everybody understands that there was an Adam and Eve. God was giving us where the misunderstandings come in is God is giving us the choice of the state that we were in before, or substance.
That sounds super flowery.
Not life and then death.
Okay.
Well,
may I?
That's what we have to understand about our reality, is that we understand about reality when it comes to science is that substance degrades over time.
We're going far afield again. Let's try and tackle these one at a time here. Adam and Eve. Are you saying the Adam and Eve story is true or not?
Yes, it is true.
Literally true.
There's a lot of information missing, but
were there two people, Adam and Eve, that were created in a garden by God?
And those were the only two people that existed. And that from those two people sprouted the rest of humanity.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Do you understand that lack of genetic diversity would cause that species to not survive? That is something that we have studied and shown, that there's a threshold under which survival is no longer really an option. That we've traced our genetic history, and tracing our genetic history.
If that were even true. Well, yeah, I understand all that, but if the Adam and Eve story were even true, which I believe it is.
If it was true, it was true. That's a tautology. I'm asking how you know.
It would have to literally involve God being involved.
Sure.
Like a threesome?
Well, I mean, definitely preventing the incest from, but then you're appealing to magic. And again, that's fine. Just show me where that magic is a thing. I mean, all I want to do is be able to take this story and pop it into the real world and see if it can even exist in this one. And if you can hand wave it away with magic, then we really don't need to open the book at all.
Well, usually the book of Genesis itself isn't complete. And like I was saying before, there were books that were removed. A set of books known as the Apocrypha. Mm-hmm. And so there is a book known as the first book of Adam and Eve. And there's also a second. And these books have been they've been dismissed throughout the past of time according to which denomination you're talking about. And then in modern times, they've just been labeled as a pseudo-text.
Well, I mean, fan fiction exists for sure.
It's a 6th century work, which is not anywhere near even on our timeline where Genesis would have been written.
That would be like writing something about, before this country existed, being able to write with authority about something that happened before this country existed. I mean, that's a hell of a leap.
Oh, that was 6th century, written in English. So
are you saying that is also should have been included in the Bible?
And is divinely inspired?
Because that would be New Testament timeline. Closer to.
Well, no, it actually fits within the Old Testament, so it would have.
Oh gosh!
And the Old Testament itself should. It's just a record of the past.
Can I write a book of the Bible and have it put in? That sounds like fun.
I mean, if we backdate it enough, I think you might be able to get away with it.
I'm confused about why you think that some of these books should have been in there, some shouldn't, especially if some of them have been written after the majority of the rest of the book has been. And what about this process of research has given you the ability to say, this should have been in, this should not have been in, this is what's missing here, this is enough information for now? That sounds like a massive undertaking, first of all. Like, has this consumed your life entirely?
No, not exactly, but it really is interesting to look into it.
Yeah, I mean, and has the methodology that you've used been good methodology? Because if it has, we want to know. That's what this show is for. I mean, if you could show us a good way to get there, perfect. It just hasn't happened in this call.
I hear you. It's just that a lot of it has to be taken into parabolic meaning, not necessarily taken literally.
Okay.
And
hold on. So something can be divinely inspired, but also not literal. Okay. Help me here. Where are we going with this?
well, I think it can be taken literally, but it was done in the literal sense, so it could be taken in parable.
Okay, so you're saying that
You know.
everything happened literally, but you can take it as a parable when it's convenient.
No, it's not convenient in that sense. But,
Okay.
but like for example, what we have in our natural understanding, murdering someone is very bad.
Sure.
But in the spiritual understanding is that what you do to someone else, you also do to yourself.
Now that's starting to get super wooey. Like I understand.
That's what the Bible teaches.
Sorry, but your God specifically calls for genocide in the Old Testament. So no.
Well, the Old Testament it was almost like it was a completely different planet that we were living on.
It definitely does seem like a
there were
completely different
species that
planet.
existed.
Yeah.
That I can agree on.
Definitely. Maybe a different even universe.
I mean, there were species that existed that we'll never see again, and that's just been the history of our planet.
I mean, understood. We're going far afield again. It sounds like every time we start to nail down, how you know that the Bible is true, we get cast down this little rabbit hole, one or another. But we're having trouble nailing down the question that we've continued to try to bring up to you, which is how do you know it is true? And then give us some specifics. And each time we've done that, we've gone down a rabbit hole. And it feels like I don't think you're trying to do it, but I hope that you can understand that it's starting to feel like a waste of time. I don't want to waste your time, and I know you don't want to waste ours. So either we need to pin this down or move to the next call.
Well, it gets into a whole bunch of other questions, Eric.
And that's great to have a beer with friends over, but this is a call-in show. We've got to pick a thing.
Yes, I understand, but it does get into some serious questions, like things that it seems like we cannot prove. Like, do we even have a soul?
Which is fantastic.
Holy rabbit
definitely
hole.
Not. Yeah, that you did it again.
So okay, I'm going to ask you real quick, summarizing kind of the main points that we've hit, for an answer, and we'll see if we can get an answer to that question and then move on.
Sounds good.
All right. So you are saying that you are not using the biased denominational approach to reading the Bible or doing your research, because that is flawed, westernized Christianity and doesn't actually get to the heart of the matter. You are saying that there are other books, other portions of the Bible that should have been in there, or are also pieces of that puzzle, but for some reason have not been included, whether that's because of translation errors, whether that's because the Holy Spirit decided that this part wasn't important right now, and I'm going to reveal this to them later. So going off of all of that, it seems kind of like you're working in a vacuum, because I haven't heard this from other people. It doesn't sound like a common doctrine, doesn't sound like a common form of dogma. So my question for you is, how are you performing this research, and how do you know that it's accurate?
That's a very good question, and that's exactly what I'm saying. Everything that you listed. Well, I know that it's accurate, and I'm going about researching this just because. Well,
Not because. How?
well, because we have the internet, because the world is so intertwined now.
Okay, so you're using the internet.
Access.
Okay, how are you differentiating between true claims on the internet and false claims on the internet, or things on the internet that are valuable to your hypothesis and ones that are not?
I validate it because those who we deem church leaders, high church figures, or whatever, have all dismissed.
Yeah, that's irrelevant.
Information or intentionally withholds it from the congregation.
Yeah, Kevin, somebody dismissing a thing is irrelevant to its truth value. I don't care what other people did about it. We're asking how you found out it's true. Just because somebody else doesn't believe it does not make it more or less true.
Because it not only does it tie in with the Bible, but it ties in with what I know to be reality.
Okay, I can bring in a whole bunch of fanfic that people have written after the fact that tie in very well to fictional stories. That doesn't make them true. Try again. I want you. No worries, Kevin. I want you to have good tools. And hopefully this is exposing a couple of bad ones. And that's nothing bad on you. Hopefully this is an opportunity to throw them out and get better ones. Explore, keep learning, keep engaging. But maybe some of these tools that you're using, recognize them as not being very useful and keep growing. We'll see what you got next time, yeah?
Yes.
All right, man. Talk to you later.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Everybody has a bias, guys. Everybody.
Yeah, I think it's time to thank those patrons. What do you think?
I agree.
I'm refreshing the page right now. I want to thank Gary, a brand new patron, Charlotte, who has been with us for a while, Bethany P, Desert Heathen, Mr. Weed Wacky.
All right.
Yeah, who's I love the patron level 2666. So $26.66. That's funny.
Nice.
I like it. It's because of your patronage and the patronage of everybody else who is helping keep this alive. We don't get paid. We're volunteers. The people on the other side of this wall are volunteers. We're here because we think that there's value here. And if you think there is too, and you can, consider going to patreon.com/talkheathen to me and becoming a patron. If you can't, that is totally okay. Like and subscribe and share this out. Leave a good review. I have actually subscribed to a service that shoots me a message when a review pops up on iTunes.
Oh, fun. Okay.
And I get usually one of those a month.
Okay. Let's try and get that up to a couple more.
Yeah, so we usually get a review a month. Please, if you're listening to this as a podcast, leave us a good review. Leave a 5-star review if you like it, because it helps. It helps us get out there so more people can find it.
Makes Google like us too.
Absolutely. All right, let's shoot through a couple more.
Sounds good.
All right, how about Bill in Florida? Bill, you're live with Eric and V. How you doing?
Hey, Eric. V, what's up, man?
How's it going? What do you want to talk about today?
Can you actually hear me okay? Or do I need to move my phone, or what do I need to do?
You're sounding good. We have an audio engineer who is just a fucking wizard and is probably making you sound smooth as butter. What's up? What do you want to talk about?
Actually, I want to talk about things that your time doesn't even have close to enough time to talk about.
Damn,
but I would like
this might not be the format then.
I would like to say something
Sure.
Can I expand your mind?
I
Specifically,
would love that.
Eric, you specifically.
My mind's already expanded
Can I
enough.
swell your head for a minute?
No, but not because I don't want to, because I don't think we have the time for it. But here's what I would really like, Bill. I want you to call back.
Go ahead.
And I want you to see if what you want to talk about can be condensed into a format that we can use on this show. It's a talk show. It's something where there's a dialogue back and forth.
I can do that right now.
Cool. What's something short?
I just wanted to swell yours and Vi's head first.
Okay, what's something short that we can discuss? What's up?
Okay. Well, I truly believe you are Spider-Man and you're hiding out. I actually believe that.
Bill?
And I would very much like to meet Vi because, well, I've never met a girl in my entire 59 years that actually thinks like she does.
Well, which
is seriously sad in our world.
Well, I think that they would definitely let you know that you have definitely described somebody who is non-binary, who I have also never met, who has thought like they do.
Well, you guys are awesome.
Yeah, just clip that as hashtag Eric White Knighting on the show, right?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, though.
Bill?
Listen.
I think you're a troll. It sounds like you're a troll. Like, you think I'm Spider-Man?
Oh, yeah, you're definitely Spider-Man. I think you're hiding out.
Bill?
I think you're like Superman, too. You're actually hiding your identity from the world.
Bill? If that was true.
Okay, enough joking around on your show.
If that was true, I would say you really need to get some help.
I wanted to swell your head a little bit.
No, it makes me want to hang up on you.
Do what?
It makes me want to hang up on you. What? What?
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I want to compliment you on.
Yeah, we're fluffing all over the place. What are we talking about here, Bill?
All right. A lot of your first of all, out of all the people, like Atheist Experience, the Godless Bitches, I think that your show, because of you specifically, Eric, is a little bit better. You have a different way of explaining yourself than all the rest of them do.
Bill, I sincerely appreciate it. Thank you. We do have other callers that we've got to get to, and I think that, next time, give us a call and we can hop right to the topic. I'm sincerely flattered.
All right. Do you want to talk about what I said?
I would love to be able to talk about that on the next call. Let's jump right to it next time, though. Yeah, definitely. Take care, buddy. We don't have a whole lot of time, and that's just not the format. And while I appreciate the kindness and what that guy was trying to do, we do want to have meaningful, productive conversations, and it's killing time.
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry, man.
All right. His head's big enough.
It is. It's huge. Anyway, who do you want to talk about?
Let's talk to JJ.
All right. JJ in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. You're live with Eric and V.
2 PA calls today.
Yeah. What do you want to talk about? JJ.
Oh, can you hear me?
Hey, yes.
Hello.
Okay, hold on, give me a second. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Hi.
Hello. What do you want to talk about?
I first want to get something out of the way. Firstly, I'm glad specifically you, Eric, are on this show because you said you've taught special needs kids before, and I'm high functioning autistic. And as much as I want to say is I'm fine right now, I'm nervous and scared as shit that I might say something that's gonna fuck this all up.
You're good, brother, and that's totally fine. Appreciate it.
Okay, just wanted to get that out of the way, so just in case I end up saying something and saying something else that completely contradicts.
So you know the funny thing is, JJ, that's the whole premise of charitable listening, is we want to give you the benefit of the doubt because we want to have that meaningful, productive conversation, and we're not going to do that, at least so long as we can. So what did you want to talk about? What's up?
So yeah, my thing is I want to talk about is it reasonable to believe in superstitions like fairy tale monsters and stuff like that, but not believe in religious superstitions?
No, not at all. But it's also super common. Humans have done it for as long as we have recorded history.
Yeah. Also, the word superstition is descriptive, right? So the concept of a superstition is specifically something that is not backed up or replicatable or evidence-based, right? So there's a reason we call them superstitions. There are some things that people believe that might happen to be true coincidentally, but that doesn't necessarily mean that believing in superstitions is ever a good idea, religious-based or otherwise.
You can see that with a whole lot of different things that people do. Somebody having a pair of lucky socks. Is there anything about the socks that are lucky? No, but they feel better when they wear them. And maybe that placebo effect helps them. There are a lot of things that we see in the animal kingdom. There are experiments that were done by Skinner, who was able to make birds do a whole bunch of superstitious things. Mm-hmm. He varied when these birds would get their food, and they'd peck at the button and it wouldn't happen, but then they'd try it again and it would. But they thought, okay, well, I spun around and then pecked and then it worked. And so then you'd have these birds doing like these rituals and then pecking for their food because they thought that's what it is. Mm-hmm. We actually train ourselves to take on these kind of superstitious views. And it's pattern seeking. It's something that's just in the animal kingdom. It's not crazy or weird. It's human and it's biological.
Okay, just because as I said, I am a theist. But I have actually read the Bible, and it feels like you hear people say that you shouldn't read it literally, but then that just opens a whole bunch of holes. But that's a different topic. So I try to see like how the Bible could be real. I try to think of it the same way as I think of like superstitious stuff, but it just seems, then why take it serious?
Agreed.
And that's when people start doing a whole song and dance.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm only talking, when I say people, I mean those that I've talked to.
Right.
In real life.
Well, because they're using the best tools that they think they have. I mean, if you've been told this is how you understand the universe and you've never been really exposed to or have tried to use better tools, you're not going to come to the same conclusions, and some of those conclusions can be wrong. Education is the best way to fight it.
And that I wholeheartedly agree.
Cheers. Okay. Yeah. But was there anything else you wanted to talk about, or was that kind of it?
Actually, yeah, I think that I'm good to cut it off here because my arm is shaking so nervously. I feel like I'm about to drop my phone. So
no worries, man. That's okay.
So, yeah, big fan of the show. I've only been watching it for like half a year, but I have gone back and watched your older episodes. I enjoyed the conversation, even though I'm only just now joining it.
JJ, I'm glad that you're watching. You did great. This call was fantastic. It was clear. It was concise. It got us to a very good point.
Yeah.
And if you were a hugger and you were here, I'd give you a big hug.
Oh yeah. Actually, funny. I'm very. I don't know how. I think the best way to put it is I'm a quasi hugger. Like it's not that I'm in the mood. Just depends on who. And when I've seen you, Eric, yes, I would be happy to give you a hug.
Well, cheers.
Awesome.
Thank you, brother. I hope
also, real quick, before we jump off, JJ, there are other ways to get to be included in the conversation as well. I just want to make sure you know some people calling in live is not the best way to have that conversation because it's nerve-wracking as fuck. I still get like nervous butterflies on my rides here to do the show. So that totally is understandable, but we do have a Discord and we have a Reddit and we have Facebook groups and we have a Twitter account. So if you're more comfortable joining in the conversation, being able to write things out and edit it and put that out there in that way, that's also something you could do. So definitely make sure to check that out.
I will definitely give that a look over.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
Look forward to seeing you there.
Take care, man.
Okay, see you both. Goodbye.
That's actually a really, really great tie-in because we're going to be moving to the Discord right after this show to do a live Q&A. So if you're enjoying this, you want to keep the conversation going, you can go to the link right below. We're going to be hopping on Discord and doing a Q&A. But first, we have Nadine in Cape Town, South Africa. You're live with Eric and V. How are you doing?
Hi guys, how you doing?
Good.
Good.
What did you want to talk? Sorry, we don't have a whole lot of time left, but we wanted to definitely get to the call. What do you want to talk about?
Okay, I converted about 2 years ago, and around about the same time, I kind of felt guilty for not telling my mom about it because I was raised in a very fundamentalist Christian family.
Mm-hmm.
And we live about 2,000 miles apart. So I gave her a call and I said, okay, listen, I know this is not the ideal conversation to have over the phone, but I don't believe what you do anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And her first response to me was, she knew this was coming, but what about her grandson? Because of my belief, I am going to send him to hell.
Mm-hmm.
And that hit me like a train.
Yeah.
Why would you then believe in God who's going to send your grandson to hell? And since then, between her and the rest of my family, they've had this passive-aggressive way of sending me religious texts,
Mm-hmm.
trying to convert me, if you will. I usually send them back some sort of atheist meme, which I know they would find really offensive, but they just do it. But I don't want to not speak to my family because we do get along really well, apart from religion. But I don't really know how to. I don't know how to say it again. That listen, what you believe, what I believe is two different things. But we can be platonic, if you will. We can have a good relationship and just avoid this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the funny thing is I've actually been working on some of this skill set recently. It's been definitely in the front of my mind over the last few weeks, and that's setting boundaries. I highly suggest for your, particular situation, obviously we're not therapists, and suggest that you get, see a therapist and talk to them because they can help you come up with an action plan that's tailored to your situation. That's much better. We're just some assholes on the internet. So we're not medical professionals. That said,
secular therapist in South Africa.
I'm sorry, say that again?
A little difficult to find a secular therapist in South Africa.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But check out the Secular Therapy Project because there are therapists that will work with you remotely.
Awesome.
I know, right? Now, really quickly, just my own personal take on it is you can't take responsibility for them. You can't. You can't own other people's feelings. And it hurts and it sucks and it's something that I have to remind myself constantly, and it feels like it's a lesson that I'm never going to fully learn. You can't own other people and you can't own their choices. What you can do is you can go, you know what? This is what is acceptable for me. And if somebody decides that their need to proselytize or their need to condescend to you is more important than their relationship with you, then that's on them. The good thing is if you set a clear boundary, then they'll know, oh, hey, Nadine's not talking to me right now because I did this thing. Mm-hmm. And if I want to continue that relationship, then I can rectify that, and here's how. I want to have this relationship with this person, but it takes both of us to be in that relationship. And I can't just depend on that person to put up with my crap continuously, family or not. You deserve better. That said, I don't know your situation. And so getting some help and finding a therapist that you can work through it with is incredibly important.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for calling, Nadine.
Thank you.
Sorry, guys, if I can just add to Raquel's phone call earlier.
Mm.
So I don't know how things work in the States, but in South Africa, you will never take or buy a new car without taking it for a test drive.
I know, right? Mm-hmm. Right? I wanted to say it.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said it. I mean, definitely make sure that person can give you some good orgasms before you tie the knot. Nadine, thank you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.
Thanks, guys. Have a good Sunday.
Will do.
Nice.
That's a good tie back.
Yeah.
So really quickly, I do want to say thank you to the people on the other side of this wall. They're fucking amazing. Coming in, they have been here before I got here. They'll be here long after we leave to get this out as a podcast, to get everything going. We wouldn't be able to do this without them. So thank you. Thank you, live studio audience. V, am I going to see you in a month? When's the next time we're hosting together?
I believe next week is
yes.
still, yeah.
Okay, good.
Status quo. Yeah.
I missed you. I'm glad you're back.
I know. It's good to be back in the seat.
Definitely. But I think it's time to go over to that Discord and do that Q&A. What do you think?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, especially before the Atheist Vanguard at 3. So let's see if we can... I fucking love that. That is never going to stop being cool. Well, you know the drill. For those of you who don't believe, this is your community. And you can have those different viewpoints. I really got a lot of, it really kind of put me in my place listening to that conversation when y'all were talking about sex, because whether it's the way I view sex or not, it is their choice. It is their right to make that choice, and we just want them to have good reasons for it, but ultimately it's theirs and we shouldn't take it away from them. Yeah,
everybody here in this community, both in Austin and everywhere, you don't need to have the same values as everybody else. That's a thing that religion asks of you. We don't ask that of you. As long as you're making choices for yourself and that are healthy ones that are come to logically, we support you.
Definitely. And the conversations today regarding the Bible, I know that it was cathartic because there's so much of that rang true personally for me today. Mm. And it was really interesting to watch. How is this a message to those people who don't believe? Because it's probably part of your journey, or it has been. And it's just another way of saying you're not alone. But for those of you who do believe, we don't hate you. We just think you're wrong. See you next week.
What are we doing, man? What are we doing?
No, you're done.